Hello everybody, this is Naira here, also known as Ryan, and today we are actually not playing a game. Whoa, surprising, you also cannot see my face. I decided not to do the face cam today because I want my microphone standing right in front of me. It is a Blue Yeti microphone. It's so fancy, but it is a desktop microphone, so I can't put it in front of me while I play because I can't see or use my hands. But today we're going to be on deck stats and doing some kind of a little bit of a deck building episode today. Actually, I already built the deck, as you can see, black and white Life Leech deck, and it is legal for Standard. If you play, I almost said League of Legends. If you do play Magic the Gathering, you probably know what Standard competitions are. But if you don't know, Standard just uses the sets that most recently came out, and they cycle through them as new sets come out and come back in and all that fun stuff. Basically, this website is a little deck analyzer. You build your deck in the program, and then it analyzes it based on your mana distribution, how much things cost, all this other fun stuff. So first off, I'll look at the distribution charts. So we have all this cool statistical analysis doohickey things. This is my forte. That was the technical term for all of this. What I really like about this is it shows you how much each thing costs in your. So like I have two things that two sorceries that cost 1 mana and 2 instances that cost 1 mana, and then I have about 6 creatures that cost 2 mana. A lot of my creatures cost 2 mana. I like low costing creatures, and so on and so forth. I think this is a really cool chart. It's really useful to figure out if you have too many things on this end of the board, you might be overextending yourself. You might not have enough mana to actually cast the spells that you want to use. And then if you have too little mana over here, or if you have too many things over on this side of the board, then you might have too many weak things in your deck. What you really want is kind of a nice bell curve shape. So you want things on this side and things on this side to be really low, and then at the top you want it to be really bubbly. But that's enough about graph analysis. Then we have this little pie chart. It just shows you a disaggregation of all your different types of cards. Here you have how many cards, what percentage of your cards require how much mana, and then this is how much how many mana sources you have for each color. My deck is a white and black deck. I have a little bit more white than I have black, and if you noticed, I perfectly balanced this somehow, that I needed exactly the amount of mana that I needed for what I'm casting. Who knew? That was not planned. I just kind of played around with the cards until I liked what the cards said, and sure enough, turns out I had enough mana exactly. So let's start out. First we'll start with the lands. I have 11 plains, which is the basic white land. I have 9 swamps, which is the basic black land. And then I have 4 shambling vents. Is it going to come up? Usually it comes up with a little description, but let's open it in a new tab. Let's see what it says. Okay, so Shambling Vents, it's a land, and you tap it to add mana to your pool, either white or black. And then this is a cool effect. It becomes a 2/3 white and black elemental creature with lifelink until end of turn. I thought that was really nifty because it means that whenever I'm running out of creatures, I can just tap this, or not tap it, but I can tap some mana for it, and boom, I get a new creature. At least for that turn. I have 19 spells, so also I had 24 lands. I have 19 spells, that means non-creature spells. And I have 17 creatures. Now the idea behind this deck was that I had both the kind of the life gain elements of white cards in my favor, but then on the same token I was also taking the life away from the other player. So a lot of my cards have like gain 2 life while your opponent loses 2 life kind of effects, and the whole idea is that I'm kind of like sucking the life out of my opponent. I liked that. I liked that idea. So for some reason, it's not coming up with the cool little bubbles. Usually, this website, if you hover over something, it'll give you the little bubbly thing. Maybe if we go into the deck builder. So let's hit Edit Deck. We'll see how this goes. And I'll go to Interactive Deck Builder. So this is the tool that you use on this site. It's Deck Stats. I'll put the link in the description, as well as the link to my own, the deck I actually built. And it is not coming up, unfortunately. It's not coming up with the little bubblies. Maybe it's because of my recording software. It won't let me do it. But let's just open some of these, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Actually, I'll go back to my main page. Alright, so as ban advantage... Oh, also, another concept that's going on. Bolstering. Kind of a lot of the white cards in this current standard set is very focused on bolstering and building up your creatures with 1/1 counters and all that kind of thing. So that's really that focus as well. Alhammaret's Archive. If you would gain life, you gain twice as much life instead. I'm actually going to X those out because I want to show you something. So, Alhammaret's Archive, if you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. Okay, the second effect doesn't really work in my deck because I don't have many cards that allow me to draw other cards. However, the reason I liked that first ability is one of my favorite creatures in this deck. The Defiant Bloodlord. It's a pretty high mana costing creature. Costs 7 mana. It's a 4/5 with flying. But whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So you can see how these cards go well together. Gain life. You gain extra life. And then they lose extra life. So that's kind of my theme of this, is that I'm sucking more and more life out of the opponent. What's another one? Scale Blessing. Scale Blessing is a bolstering card that I really like. You bolster one, and then after you bolster, you put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. So what I like about that is that after I've already built up my entire bench of creatures with 1/1 counters on it, all of a sudden I play Scale Blessing, and boom, all of them have another 1/1 counter on them. Builds them up even better. Let's look at the Citadel Siege and the Citadel Siege. I'm not going to go through every card because that would get tedious. You can check the deck out on your own, but I would like to point out some of the cards that I found significantly interesting and cool to use. So the Palace Siege and the Citadel Siege use the Cons versus Dragons kind of choice system. As it enters the battlefield, choose Cons or Dragons. If you choose Cons, at the beginning of your upkeep, you return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Helpful, but not why I chose this card. Dragons, on the other hand, at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Once again, going on the same kind of concept. Now the Citadel Siege, very similarly, if I choose Cons, I get 2 1/1 counters on creature I control at the beginning of every combat on my turn. Dragons, at the beginning of my combat, I can tap a creature that player controls. That might be useful, but I'd probably more prefer to choose Cons for this deck. What else do we have? Duress and Despise. Now, I saw Duress not too long ago. My boyfriend showed it to me, and I hated this card because he can just look in your hand and say, you know what? I don't like this random spell you have. I don't like that. Nope, get rid of it. But not just that, they can see your hand. So that means they can see all the cards that you're going to use, and it's a mess. I don't like it. It's a very simple card. Most of you probably already know about it if you already clicked this video. This is kind of more on the tutorial for beginners kind of aspect. Reason being is I just started Magic. I started maybe 6 months ago, not even, and I have not gotten into the full swing of things. This is my first competitive deck that I've ever built, and I will end up showing you the other decks I built. They're really cool, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. Despise. Despise is another card. Very similar to Duress. You look at the opponent's hand, but this one you get to choose a creature or planeswalker from it, and just discard that. No, that's not getting played. Nope, get rid of it. Bye-bye. Nope. And it costs 1 mana. It costs 1 mana. What? 1 mana to look in my hand and discard something from it, of your choice. That's ridiculous. Dowson Gloom deals 2 damage to target creature and you gain 2 life. With the that other creature I showed you, the Defiant Bloodlord, if I gain the life, then the opponent also loses that life. Let's see. There was another... I think it's enchantment. Is it Tainted Remedy? Yes, Tainted... Oh, and now it's showing up with this. But I'll make it big anyway. Tainted Remedy. If an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. So not only am I taking the life from them, but I'm also saying, go ahead, try to gain life. I dare you to try to gain life today. Because, nope, that's actually going to make you lose life now. So if they use any kind of lifelink deck or anything on those lines, well, this is a giant middle finger to them, because now they can't even swing with the creatures that have lifelink on their side. Hold on, I need some water. So, Echoes of the Treekin. Cost 2 mana. Pretty nice. But then I can continuously tap mana to bolster 1. So, if nothing gets done about this enchantment, this can get pretty crazy, because every turn, if I have 3 extra mana that I want to use, I can just tap, 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 and suddenly all of my things are now 4/4s. Kind of ridiculous. I like it. Let's see, another crazy one. Fate Forgotten is just you get rid of a creature spell. Foul Tongue Shriek. I like this one. Target opponent loses 1 life for each attacking creature you control. You gain that much life. If I have a lot of creatures on my side of the field, even if I think they're going to die, even if I think they're going to block and they're going to just get wiped out, this card is super awesome, because even if they die and they don't get through blockers, boom, my opponent loses that much life. Not only that, is I have March from the Tomb. Once I get into the creatures, you'll understand why this is important. But return it costs 5 mana. Return any number of target ally creatures with total converted mana cost of 8 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that means the total between all of the cards I decide needs to be 8 or less. So most ally cards cost 2 mana, at least most of the ones I'm using. So that would mean I could return 4 of them from my graveyard, which is quite a bit, if you think about it. Now, the ally system in the Battle for Zendikar set is... I quite like the idea of it. Let's find a good one. I think it's this one. Nope, not that one. I lied. Is it this one? Yes. Okay, we'll go with this one. So the ally system, if you look at the creature type, it says it's a vampire cleric ally. So anything with ally in it counts as an ally. Duh. Whenever this card or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So that means if this creature is out, and I just keep playing ally after ally, which I have quite a bit in this deck, all of a sudden their life starts going down faster and faster. Not just that, but some of my allies don't have ally effects, but still affect the ally effects of other cards. So, Draena's Emissary doesn't have Rally. It doesn't have any kind of, if an ally joins the battlefield, do this action. But she does have Flying, and she also does they lose 1 life, I gain 1 life, at the beginning of my upkeep, which is really nice. This card, Sunscorch Regent. This card is actually in my Angels deck. I have a mono white Angel deck, and I like this card a lot. This is really good against anyone, because anytime your opponent wants to cast a spell, this thing gets a 1/1 counter on it, and you gain a life. So if I have the card out that says So this works with all of my cards, really. That's why I really like this card. If I have the card out, the Defiant Bloodlord, then I gain 1 life, and then suddenly Defiant Bloodlord turns around and makes sure that the opponent loses 1 life. Okay, that's cool. But then put a 1/1 counter on Sunscorched Region. Why is that cool? Because I have cards that say, for every 1/1 counter on other creatures you control, put that many 1/1 counters on this creature. Which creature is that? Is the question. I do have one that does that. Nope, that's Defiant Bloodlord, that's that. Patron of the Valiant. Yes. Patron of the Valiant. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. For each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. That might not be the card I'm looking for. Did I get rid of that card? It might be I'm sorry, it might be one of these. Nope, it's not that one. Nope, not that one. Yes, this one. Okay, Gleam of Authority. I knew it was in here. I had to have this card because it really worked with that bolstering. Enchanted Creature gets 1/1 for each 1/1 counter on other creatures you control. So if Sunscorched Regent has bolstered itself for 5 turns, all of a sudden it's got 5 1/1 counters on it. This Enchanted Creature gets 5 1/1s on it too. Very useful. Not only that, I can use this creature now to tap and bolster. Pay 1 mana, tap, and bolster. What else do I have that's super cool? Lantern Scout. I like Lantern Scout. It gives my creatures lifelink when an ally or it enters the battlefield, at least until end of turn. Pretty helpful for a life-gaining deck. This card, I think I'm going to end on this card. This really works with the bolstering. So it enters the battle, it's a 0/0, but it enters the battlefield with 4 1/1 counters on it. If I tap 3 mana, I can move a 1/1 counter from target creature onto another creature. So let's say with Sunscorched Regent, I know that anytime the opponent plays a spell, he's going to get a 1/1 counter. Okay, so my thought process is, well, if that card's going to get a 1/1, why don't I transfer one of its counters over to another creature and bolster that one up and build all of my creatures up one by one by having one creature that's gaining a lot of counters kind of spread them out to my other creatures. Very, very, very useful concept. I think this deck will fare pretty well in standard competitions. If you're curious about all the other little things on this website, there's I appreciate the fact that it tells you the general price of cards. So I think my most expensive cards are actually the Shambling Vents. So yeah, they're $463 for each of them. I actually might get rid of them then, at least some of them, because $18 for 4 lands, not really worth it. So that's why I like this tool, because it tells you what cards are they might be too expensive for you, or something like that. So you might be really invested in this idea of this one card, and then you look at it and you realize it's like $28. Maybe it's time to get rid of it and not use it in your deck. Another cool feature of this is my main deck. It uses 60 cards. However, I can have a sideboard of cards. So I have things like Starfield of Nyx. Nyx. I don't know how to say that. But it's an enchantment, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As long as you control 5 or more enchantments, each other non-aura enchantment you control is a creature in addition to its other types, and has base power and base toughness each equal to its converted mana cost. That's pretty scary. That means that I can return an enchantment from my graveyard onto the battlefield for free. Well, yeah, basically for free, because it's at the beginning of my upkeep. So unless this enchantment gets kicked off the field very fast, that means every turn I get a new enchantment out onto the field that got kicked off early in the game. And as long as I control 5 or more enchantments, all of the enchantments that are non-auras all of a sudden become creatures. That's pretty nasty. I put that on my sideboard because I didn't know how many enchantments I'd be running. Let's see, I am running enchantments. I'm running 6 enchantments. So, 6 enchantments doesn't really make that card worth it. Another card I put in my side deck was the Karsi Sadist. And the reason being is because it requires me to sacrifice a creature. My creatures are very, very important to me. I don't like the idea of sacrificing creatures. So when it enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice a creature, and it makes the opponent lose 2 life, and you gain 2 life. So it fit the topic of or the concept of my deck. I didn't like the idea of sacrificing things. And there's a few other things. Oh, Adobe Acrobat is available. I don't care. So there's a few other cards in my sideboard, and a few other cards that I might not have gone over. If you notice anything interesting or you want to change it, feel free to change it on your own. Obviously, you can't change my deck, but I'm going to post the link in the description for both this deck and for the website in general. So feel free to check both of those out. I think the tool really, really helps. There's a few other ones out there too, but this is the first one I came across, so this is the one I chose because that's how human nature works. Thank you everyone for watching my video. If you liked the video and want to see more, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. If you haven't already checked it out, my Twitter link is in the description below. And remember, stay above average.